I learned a powerful lesson that has served me in my career. And I hear a lot of people talk about it now when they give advice. The less you say, the better.
Here to guarantee you'll make a good impression is Samantha Yanks.
Starting us off today is co-founder of the Connecticut Edit. This is Samantha Yanks.
I really didn't think of my personal life and my professional life as two different entities. I think that work-life balance is a better term. And I think I tried my very best at balancing the two, but oftentimes probably one took a back seat. If I didn't achieve exactly what I said I was going to achieve, I contextualized it with failure. And today I just don't do that. Today I realize that everything can't be a win. It just can't be, right? And that's okay. Carlos Alcaraz said it's either a win or a learning experience. There are no losses. And I take that to heart. Resiliency is a wonderful word because it means that things are never steady, right? And so when you said we're winning right now, right now, in this moment.
Hi, Sam. Welcome to All Over Again podcast. I'm so excited we've made this happen.
I'm so thrilled to be here.
So I'm going to kick off and I'm going to ask you some kind of strange questions because it kind of gets you, like into the groove of it.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
I was thinking about what are some of the weirdest things that I could ask you. It's like, if you were a flavor ice cream, what would you be? But then I kind of landed on, if you were an animal, what would you be and why?
Does it have to be living?
No.
So I have a bizarre, or maybe not bizarre, obsession with dinosaurs. One of the classes I took in college was solely based on dinosaurs. And it's always been kind of this love affair with a curiosity, I think, more than a love affair, just with the evolution of them and where we are today. And we went to go visit our daughter for Parents' Weekend. We just got home at the University of Michigan. And I am in her dorm and I'm walking around the campus and I'm looking around, and just steps away from her dorm, I kid you not, I did not know this before I got there, there's a natural history museum at the University of Michigan on the campus, just steps away from her dorm. And there are these massive artifacts there and fossils. It's extraordinary. And first of all, I just thought it was a good luck charm. She's not obsessed with dinosaurs. I am. But it just made me feel good, and that's my thing.
You feel like she's
dinosaurs.
protected?
I feel like she's protected by mastodons.
This is incredible. I'm see that.
Did you see that answer coming?
No, and that is why I love that
And if
question.
I were a flavor ice cream, I'd be mint chip.
Do you want to say why? Just because you like it?
I love, love, love dark chocolate.
Yeah.
And I find chocolate ice cream too overwhelming in the chocolate world.
Yeah.
So, and I like the tartness of mint and feels clean and fresh, but then you still get the yumminess of chocolate.
Yeah, because ice cream makes everything better.
My ice cream
Doesn't
makes
it?
everything better.
Isn't
Frozen
it?
yogurt and ice cream make everything better. I often get asked, do I eat as much ice cream as I actually share on social media? I do. Indeed, I do. I do. That's why I work out so much too, because I'm obsessed with ice cream. I also didn't know you were going to ask that.
I mean, I don't think I shared with you some of these questions. Okay, to that end, how would you describe yourself in 3 adjectives?
How would I describe myself in 3 adjectives? It's also a great tip, by the way, to repeat the question so you buy yourself a little extra time to think about it. I would say I am driven. I would say I'm caring. And I would say I'm protective.
I definitely see the driven part and the caring. I don't know so much about the protective, but you're a mama, so you have to be protective. Anyway, I love these questions because I'm sure I will be bringing this back up later. So
absolutely. I can't wait.
I also feel like that correlates super well with your career, your life in media. And first of all, do you come from a media family or is it just you and your cousin? I just feel like you guys are these media magnets, you know?
Wow. I mean, let's do that story. Is our family media magnets? No. My mother worked in media as well. She had a very, very long, impressive career at Condé Nast. And I started my career there as well. as did one of our mutual connections, my cousin. We all had a period in our careers that were very important to each of us. Individually, very little crossover in what we each did within the organization, and probably just unlikely that all three of us worked there, but all three of us worked at Condé Nast. And we do have a lot of media focused people in our family. And interestingly, all of us had different evolutions within our career. And some of us still involved in media, others not. But I think just a commonality, an unexpected commonality in some ways.
Totally unexpected.
Totally unexpected.
You weren't primed to be in media.
No. I also wasn't primed to inherit the Neiman Marcus empire because my maiden name was Marcus, or the Marcus Dairy that exists. None of those things. No, I think just kind of unlikely that we all have an interest in it and a talent in it in wildly different ways. Some on the publishing side and the sales side, some in the kind of familial components of media, and others in the editorial marketing world. So just unlikely, but lovely and wonderful.
So interesting.
Because it gives us a lot to talk about.
Sure. And so around the time I met you, you were at Hamptons Mag. You were the editor.
I was.
At Hamptons Magazine.
I was.
And where was that in your career? Because now I know you are the editor at Westport Magazine and the founder of Connecticut Edit. So where were you then in your career? Because I'm sure you had a long
There was a runway. There was a runway. So we met, when I was the editor-in-chief of Hamptons Magazine, and I was also editor-in-chief of Gotham Magazine. Kind of divided my time between New York City, which is where I was raised and grew up, and the East End and the Hamptons. And prior to that, I started my career going back to our Condé Nast discussion at Vogue magazine. So I began there after some wonderful internships in the media world. And it's interesting because I'm turning 50 next year, and I still talk about the internships that I had because they were so impactful. And now having an 18-year-old daughter and thinking about what her internships are going to look like, it's just a reminder that every part of your career, to me, has impact if it's something that is worthwhile. So I started interning many, many years ago in the media space. I worked at InStyle and I had worked at Vogue. And at the time, actually, in the intern world, going back very, very far, Condé Nast had this amazing program where you could intern. It was this roving program, and you got to intern each week at a different publication. So I spent a week at Vanity Fair and a week at GQ and a week at Vogue, and realized very quickly that my passion was in the fashion space. And so when I graduated college, I was very, very lucky. I mean, I think I worked very hard, so it's not all work, but it was my first job was at Vogue magazine, and I was there for a number of years, and I worked in the accessories department and had an amazing journey and had some incredible coworkers, inspiring bosses, so much collaboration. It really taught me that you are part of a greater whole, right? So I worked in one department with a slew of noteworthy editors and visionaries, and that was incredible. And I caught this kind of marketing bug, if you will. I stayed in editorial, but I went and worked for Oprah Winfrey. And at the time, she had a magazine that was in the Hearst family. And I worked there for some time, and we worked on what was being established as the O list. And we would select products that we would present to Oprah Winfrey. And from those products, she would pick what she liked. And from there, the O list was established. I worked with my creative director, his name was Adam Glassman. He's still a force in our industry. And we worked together on that. And I was the fashion director there. And it was interesting because I saw for the first time that there was a huge fusion that was necessary to be on a multitude of platforms to really be a brand. And Oprah had this magazine, but that was really the smallest part of her empire. So I got to see into the power of television and the power of real life branding. And I kind of couldn't look back. And it was the path that I took and ended up at Hamptons magazine. I was there for 13 years. And that was really when we met, which is going back to this piece was we were a media company, but a huge component of what we did were creating events and bringing people into our world and into the lifestyle of what the Hamptons was.
The community aspect.
The community aspect.
And
100%.
I want to go back there. But first, I have questions about Vogue and O Magazine. And I see that now because O Magazine and Oprah's List, right?
Yep.
She creates brands. I mean, the brands create themselves, but she puts them on the map. If you are featured, you better have your inventory ready. Right?
Absolutely. It was an unbelievable experience to be a part of and to watch. I will forever remember we would go to fashion shows, but fashion was less of a component. And it was a time in my career where I learned much more about the way people live in addition to how they dress. And so we would go to fashion shows and the accessory shows and the fancy food shows and travel around the country and meet all of these founders and owners and what was resonating in their community and what we thought really as New Yorkers was going to resonate nationwide.
Sure.
And so as we were selecting these products and these businesses and meeting all of these owners and thinking, okay, we need to understand the story ourselves about why these products are being created, but we also need to digest them within a soundbite when we present them to Oprah. Because if it didn't make sense to her in a few seconds, it wasn't going to be a story that she would tell that would be compelling enough for her audience. And I learned so much from that. And people use the word storytelling now in our regular vernacular. And I love that. At the time, it wasn't framed like that. You were just trying to understand things really quickly and be able to speak in sound bites, which hopefully I am doing well enough today. And I remember certain companies and certain founders, but to this day, I will remember meeting the owners of a cookie company. I mean, now it's grown into this enormous empire, but at the time, a cookie company, and they're called Dancing Deer. And the cookies were unbelievable. I had just never tasted cookies like this, back to my chocolate obsession. I'd never tasted cookies like this. I don't know. I grew up in New York City. I'd never tasted a cookie like this. And then I tasted the peanut butter one and then the oatmeal raisin. And then they had this ginger snap cookie. It was incredible. No, I just looked at Adam Glassman and I said, we need to show these cookies to Oprah. 10, 15 years later, I can't remember. I walked into my deli, my bodega in New York, and there they were. Dancing Deer cookies packaged beautifully in this bag with this gorgeous branding, and it had evolved. But I remember them writing emails and calling, and there were no texts and DMs and everything then.
So much more simple.
It was simple, it was thoughtful, but there were these continuous notes saying, putting those products in front of Oprah and them being on the O list, it changed our lives. And that to me that was the power of the Oprah brand. It was like nothing I had ever seen. And to this day, I haven't seen anything else like it because she put her stamp of approval on something and you knew it had meaning.
It's genuine. I think she was one of the first public figures, celebrities to endorse in an authentic way. Like she wasn't going to put it out there unless she was using it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've
right?
looked at Oprah's gift guide,
It's still,
inform.
It's still the North Star.
Yeah.
And another word that's really, or a few words that are being used today as commonplace words, which I applaud and love, are that it was authentic and it was organic. And it was. We didn't use those words at the time.
No.
But it was the true essence of building a community of trust. And her authentic love of something was something not only she got behind, but her audience got behind. And it was incredible.
I mean, she's a pioneer in that way.
Absolutely.
And she has a story of her own, which is so fascinating, right? Like, I love that she is where she is based on her story. I mean, anyway, we could talk about that too, but like, it's really impressive. Like, speaks her truth because she's shown her truth, you know?
Yes.
So, okay, another question, another media question.
Okay.
So you interned at Vogue.
I did.
So 2 questions to that end. One is, did you ever spend time in the closet at Vogue? And did you ever work with Anna Wintour? And what was that like?
So I had 2 very distinct experiences at Vogue. I first interned right before I graduated from college for Candy Pratt's Price in the accessories department. And she, to this day, is an iconic visionary. She actually has just launched a shoe collection with La Roudet. And it's so wonderful to see the staying power of someone who is a visionary the way Candy is. So I interned for her and a number of incredible women who I'm still in touch with today in the accessories department. And when I graduated college, I thought, okay, I have this internship under my belt, but getting a job at Condé Nast is not for the faint of heart, I have to tell you.
No.
And I think anyone who has worked there or anyone who has thought about working there or anyone who dreams about working there knows that it's a very, very powerful place, and making your inroads in there is a craft unto itself. And I dreamed about working at Vogue, and I didn't know exactly in which department. I have to say it's a we conversation, but from a me perspective, I'm very petite. I'm 5'1", and I did not and do not look like your typical Vogue employee. And I definitely, another term that I think people talk about a lot today that was non-existent in the vocabulary is this whole imposter syndrome. That's a very popular conversation right now. I think in some way, without having the language, I always kind of felt that. This is visually, is that like, am I really right in this place? And so I kind of knew in a way that the fashion department probably wasn't my calling, because I couldn't try on the clothing and I couldn't walk into one of our editor's office and show them what things were looking like or pieces were looking like, because our editors love to style on real people. And so in the back of my head, I thought, here are the things I love. I love shoes. I just love shoes. And I love jewelry. In the back of my head, kind of figured out this niche. My dream was to be a jewelry editor and a watch editor. I had always had this passion for it, and I do still to this day. And so I applied for a job, and I had a few callbacks. And so to work at Vogue at the time, you had to meet Anna. There was no position that existed at the time, no matter where you were on the masthead, where you didn't meet with her. So to get the job that I had, which was a very, very young assistant, junior assistant in the accessories department, I was working for a woman named Michelle Kessler-Sanders. And I met with Michelle, and she said, I'd love to have you on my team, but you have to meet with Anna. And once we kind of get that sign off, then we'd love for you to join us. And I passed the Anna test, and she was just arresting in some ways. There are very few adjectives that you can use to describe her. I mean, I came over the next few years to be very comfortable around her and go into her office all the time and present accessories and understand that you really had to know what you were talking about and have a compelling story as to what you were showing her. But the first time I met her, I learned a powerful lesson that has served me in my career. And I hear a lot of people talk about it now when they give advice. The less you say, the better. And that was a perfect moment because I said very little. And she asked a few questions about my background and what I love doing. Nothing about fashion at all. And what was I reading? I don't remember actually the answer now, but what was I reading? Where did I like to go out at night? Who was I spending time with? And what brought me joy? I don't think she used the word joy, but it was really anyone who had made it past her desk to meet with her had to know what they were talking about fashion-wise or had to have a drive to learn. She didn't care about that. It was just, can you be comfortable sitting in front of me and hold a conversation? So I guess I did that.
So she wanted you to talk, but maybe not too much?
Yes. So maybe I'm not learning that lesson today because I am talking a lot, but it served me very well, and it has served some of the mentoring I have done with some of the women who have worked for me some of the young girls who work for me. Sometimes the less you say, the better. Listening is really powerful. Learning is really powerful. And when you are, I don't remember, was I 22, sitting in front of Anna Wintour, I probably didn't have much to teach her. So just kind of took a back seat, listened carefully to what the question was, and answered it hopefully succinctly.
Well, clearly you did.
Clearly I did.
And I can appreciate these words of wisdom. As I think about it, and I grew up between brands on the marketing side, at the actual brands, and then also in the PR communications agency world. I actually only spent like 3.5 years there, but it seemed
feels like a lifetime. I've heard that.
It really was. I mean, being in the trenches.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to war, it feels like sometimes, with the women that I worked with and men. And I mean, we're still friends.
Yep.
But I learned that same tidbit of advice, or I shouldn't say that. I learned the exact same thing from Elizabeth Harrison. Harrison Shriftman was kind of like the epitome of what a PR agency is. I don't think it was Devil Wears Prada, but there were nuances in our clients and such where we felt that sort of element.
Yep.
And so I was always curious to know what happened at Vogue. And Elizabeth Harrison was always very wonderfully strategic and honest and straight to the point.
Very straight to the point. I know her well.
I love
and
her.
It's amazing. Some of the names that have come up already in this conversation, it is wonderful to see how relevant all of these leaders still are today, right?
So
Elizabeth's
truly,
name came up, I think, yesterday, having to do with the Samsonite campaign, and something I thought was really impressive in terms of narrative that was created around it. And I just thought, wow, it's just so nice to see Elizabeth Harrison's name.
Well, she's brilliant.
She's brilliant. And it was so nice that Marina Larrardee reached out to me to give a soundbite about Candy Pratt's Price just yesterday.
Incredible.
And these are the women who we came up with, or leaders before us, or some who are our counterparts.
Or inspired by.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I was in the accessories closet at Vogue. I did not answer that, but I mean, I was an accessories editor, so I was in the fashion closet all the time, and it was as iconic as it looks. And I'm wearing Manolo Blahniks today, or Manolos, and I think that my time at Vogue in the fashion closet was. I mean, I basically lived in there. It wasn't like I went in there. I lived in there, and it has only enforced my love of shoes, not destroyed it.
Do you have photos from that? Well, we didn't really have like photo phones back in the day. Do they even let you is the question.
We didn't have phones back then that were taking, I wouldn't have dared to do that.
They wouldn't even let you.
I think that I'm being recorded all the time. I just think that's just a natural way to live when you're going into a store, when you're on an airplane, when you're in an airport, whatever it is. I just assume that the option is there that you're being filmed all the time. I distinctly remember then that there were cameras in the closet and someone was watching. You didn't know who was watching. And it could have been for theft. It could have been to look at behind the scenes. It could have been to get a sneak peek. Who knows? But you knew better than to take photos of everything and anything.
Devil Wears Prada was not accurate when Anne Hathaway was in the closet and, taking things for herself, because there was clearly someone watching, not like the movie where it was a free-for-all.
It was not a free-for-all. And I worked at Vogue at the time that Lauren Weisberger worked at Vogue. She was Anna's assistant when I was in the accessories department. And her recount is spot on with, a little bit of fun. We weren't all running around taking things from the closet and living our best lives, as they say now. But it was the fashion closet was an inspiring place in that you first walked in and really what you saw were the racks of clothing. And there were different configurations because I worked in 2 different offices that Vogue was in. I first worked at 350 Madison, which were these just awesome offices. Everything was black. The walls were black. The desks were black. We all wore head to toe black. And so the only color you ever really saw was either in the accessories or in the clothing. And you'd walk into the fashion closet and there was a wall. So when you first walked in, there was this floor to ceiling, wall to wall mirror. All of the racks of clothing were around and all of the shoes were behind this wall. So because it was messy,
sure.
I think, right, was the theory. So you'd walk in and it was pristine. There was an expectation of the way the closet looked.
Yeah.
And then behind the wall were all of the shoes. So you would go into this magical place with floor to ceiling, stunning stilettos and sandals and more.
My dream.
And it was a dream. It was a dream. It was a dreamy time. It was one of the best experiences of my life.
I can imagine.
And I know the title of your podcast, but I wonder if I would. I know we'll get to it, but career-wise, I've had so many incredible moments, and working at Vogue was beyond one of them.
Well, let's talk about that. Okay, so when you look back on your life, the good, the messy, the everything, if you could redo something, what would you do all over again and why?
So I think there's a lot of, I can't avoid the question. It's the topic of your podcast, right?
But everybody's got their something,
Of course. I think career-wise, I don't think there's much that I would change. That said, I think that for me, I really wove together my personal and professional life. And it had its ups and it had its downs. And there's a lot of discussion today about work-life balance. I am not in my senior years, but I'm old enough to share that discussion for women was not as big of a discussion as it is today. And I really didn't think of my personal life and my professional life as 2 different entities. I think that work-life balance is a better term. And I think I tried my very best at balancing the 2, but oftentimes probably one took a back seat that I wish it didn't. And I mean that both professionally and personally. I now have an 18-year-old. I took a very short maternity leave when I had her. At the time, I was working at Niche Media, which is today Modern Luxury, which has a portfolio of luxury lifestyle magazines. At the time, I was the editor-in-chief of all of those magazines. Today, I think it's a portfolio of 72 magazines. It was somewhere around that number.
That's impressive. That's
the time.
Wow.
And I was traveling all across the country, and in addition, going to fashion shows in Europe. And I had a newborn baby. And as much as you can say, try to find the balance between that, there are only so many hours in a day, and there are only so many days in a week. And there were definitely moments where I knew that I was failing at one. And the good news was I had a lot of support. I really did. I had a lot of support at home, and I had a lot of support at work. I built, I think, an amazing team of people at work who really lifted me up. And I'm still in touch with all of them today. It was all about finding support. But if I had to do it over again and I had to look back, as they say, right, I probably would have done what I recommend to myself, to my teammates, to my daughter in college. Carve out time, like figure out what your calendar really looks like. How many reasonable hours are there in a day? How many reasonable days are there in a week? And carve out time. It seems very sterile, right? And it seems very sterile, actually. I don't think there's another word for it, but it works when I've found that it works better now to have non-negotiable time for certain things. And I'm sure no one's putting in their planner motherhood as a calendar invite, but figuring out when you're at your best to do certain things versus being exhausted all the time, doing things a bit half measure. If I could go back and organize my life the way that I organize it today, like my time to go to the gym with my trainer, non-negotiable. My time to take a walk with my dog, non-negotiable. I'm obviously not going through all of the work things, but the things that keep me healthy today, to be able to get on the phone, FaceTime with my daughter at college, talk about what's going on. There's nothing that gets in the way of those things today. I didn't do that back then. And another word that people talk about now are boundaries. There were no boundaries. There were no boundaries. And again, when I was really thinking about what we talk about today, it's not that I would do things over again necessarily. It's that I think the workplace has changed. And I didn't have a workplace at the time, and probably not my own boundaries, to figure out how to do that. And I was young. I was in my 20s doing all of these incredible things. And being an editor-in-chief and being a mother and being a wife and being a daughter and all of those things that were of primary importance, they just you can't be your best at all of them at the same exact time. And a little bit of forgiveness. I had no forgiveness for myself then. If I didn't achieve exactly what I said I was going to achieve, I contextualized it with failure. And today I just don't do that. Today I realize that everything can't be a win. It just can't be, right? And that's okay. And that is one of our family's favorite tennis players, Carlos Alcaraz, said it's either a win or a learning experience. There are no losses. And I take that to heart. And I try to practice that daily. Everything can't be a win. Not even close.
But to your point, I think the mentality was different. That it was such that Ricky Bobby said it really well. If you're not first, you're last, right? I mean, I'm being a little like silly here, but really, truth be told, if you were not winning, it was, at least in my mind, I was a failure. Like, wow, like this, if I'm not here hitting on my A game every single time,
yep,
in every single aspect, so of course something is going to fall flat. But I love that today there is a focus on boundaries. I worked in a predominantly male-dominated industry. I grew up in auto. And then, interestingly enough, it's not like PR is male-dominated by any stretch.
No.
But a lot of our clients were.
Right.
And so it was just a different iteration of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really hard. And I remember at my first job saying to myself, okay, your social life needs to die for the next 5 years. And then you'll be able to do anything. I literally remember telling myself that. I got my dream job that I was totally underqualified for at Mercedes-Benz. I mean, literally, like so underqualified. Like a 22-year-old would probably not get that job
today. Right.
And I'm still in shock that they hired me. But I remember just, putting my all into it and just saying, okay, this is it. And I did that.
Yes.
And I sacrificed so many social everythings. And I am so appreciative that my friends were so understanding. I'm super grateful that they're still around.
Yes.
Because today...
But they were all, I feel like our generation, coming up in our generation, especially in New York City, are professional life, our personal life kind of did take a backseat. It was a the women that I'm still close with and whose careers I've watched the trajectory of, personal lives did take a backseat. And as a perfect example, I met my husband. Our wedding anniversary is next week. We'll be married for 22 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I love you, David. And we met just exactly what we're talking about. I had no personal life. I was working at Vogue. I had no personal life. I was at my desk before the sun came up. I slept there. I was talking about this with someone the other day.
Stop it.
It was just, that was my life as a very junior assistant. Sometimes it just became, what was the point of going home? I didn't really make a bed and sleep there, but there were late nights and there were very early mornings, and we were, for much of our time, on a European time zone, because everything we needed was coming from Italy or France or Spain, or we were just functioning on a very, very different schedule than most. And I met my husband. The only reason I bring this up is I met my husband on a blind date via a girlfriend of ours who was working at Prada at the time. She had worked for my then boss at Vogue before, went to college with my husband, and she said, well, at least if you're going to sit at your desk all day, meet this guy. And that was it.
That is amazing.
So it was made a little easy for me, I have to say, but I was not out there. And I talk to my friends now who have kids in their 20s in the dating scene in New York and how horrific it sounds. And I feel very, very lucky that I didn't do that. I didn't really date in New York in my 20s because I couldn't, because I was working all the time.
That's amazing.
Truly working all the time. And that instilled in me what is still there, though.
That work ethic.
That work ethic is just there.
You find the time to do it.
And that's not something you shake. People will often ask me, do I want to slow down? But instead of that, the question is always, what's next? What's next? What's next? Because that work ethic, when that's instilled in you, that's not something you get rid of.
But that is a conflict, the work ethic and the sleep.
Yes.
I will tell you that we talked about boundaries,
Yep.
but that is one element I have never been able to shake. I will do something until I need to get it done.
Right.
And sometimes it does create a procrastinating spirit.
Yes.
And I will wait till the last minute and I will just do whatever it takes to get it done. But I actually, now that we're talking about it, I'm like, wow, maybe that's all linked.
Right.
Oof.
Right. This is very therapeutic.
Oh, very. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you and David get married.
We did.
You have a daughter.
We did. We do.
And we've talked about this because we are both mothers to onlys.
Yes.
I feel like onlys get a bad rap.
It needs a rebrand.
I love that you said that. So tell me more. If you were going to rebrand, right? If you were going to write a book about raising an only child and rebranding that, segment of the population, if you will, what would the book be called?
Only Not Lonely.
Oh, I love that.
Just came on. I mean, I
that
had
was a
not
great
thought about
one.
this. I had not thought about this, but I should write this. Well, now it's recorded.
Mhm.
So I'm an only child as well.
And if anyone's listening to this is Sam's title. Just it's taken.
I'll trademark it.
Yeah, that's
right.
a good idea.
So I am an only child as well. And I grew up in New York City. And I think I have a particular fondness for Sarah Jessica Parker, or SJP, because she calls New York City her family, or New York City is her first love. And that has nothing to do for her with siblings or anything. I think she just has this affinity to the place, and it gives her comfort and inspiration and all of those things. I look at it more in a way that I never felt lonely as an only child, and I can't speak for anyone else in any regard, but I never felt lonely because I had New York City and I had this amazing life and group of friends and parents and neighborhood. And again, there's so much talk of, and I myself use it because it's what I think I've built my own brand on, is community. But just being part of a community, to me, again, I can only speak for myself, felt way more powerful than some of the very messy relationships I saw amongst my friends with their siblings. So I never yearned to have a sibling. I am very, very, very close with my cousin, whom you know, and that was the most sibling-like relationship I think I ever had. We're very close in age. He was a great balance for me. I guess I always said, like, if I had a sibling, I'd like to have a brother. I don't think I would have ever been suited to a sister. I have no idea why. And well, we can unpack that another time, but I'm sure I do know why. But anyway,
Wait, tell me more about that.
I have very, very, very strong female relationships. And I think it's because I'm not competitive with any of my girlfriends. And I don't think any of my girlfriends are competitive with me. I don't know if I lived in the same household vying for parent attention or being compared against each other in school or in sport or in career, I would have been well suited for that. But who knows? I'll never know. Or I'll be by myself and be totally content.
Totally. And
so my daughter's the same. Our daughter is the same. So when my husband and I decided to start a family, we had probably just one discussion. There weren't many discussions, but our dream was a daughter. And there was never a discussion of a big family. My husband has an amazing relationship with his sister. But it wasn't, neither of us came from large families. And I have many, many, many friends who have 3, 4 kids. And I think it is just this extraordinary, beautiful thing. It was just not the background that I came from. And it was so foreign to me and what felt comfortable for both of us. And I always say this in marriage when people ask questions or try to kind of get intel on your thought process of like what makes relationships work or parenting work. I don't think anyone can give you a reasonable answer because you're just navigating it yourself. I have no idea why, but my husband and I just wanted one child.
Perfect.
We wanted a daughter. You can't make that happen. We got very lucky that it happened. And Sadie I can't speak for her. And Sadie, you should come on this podcast and have this discussion to see if you're as happy as I think you are, but is a very, very content, resilient, only child. And I would say she's very similar to your daughter and very similar to myself, which is she is very happy in large groups. She's very happy in petite groups. And she's very happy by herself. And I think that there are, interestingly, not to get too serious about it, but I think that there are a lot of studies now that are showing that that type of independence is invaluable. And I read something the other day, like if you can go to a movie by yourself or you can sit and eat dinner by yourself, you have a leg up because that type of ability to sit with yourself calmly is very, very powerful. And I think to a lot of people, I look very external and forward-facing and busy. I'm a very, very private, insular person. I need alone time a lot or one-on-one conversations a lot. And I think that there are benefits and drawbacks to that, but I think a lot of it comes from being an only child myself.
I have been asked the question about siblings in the past. That conversation has, for the most part, dissipated. I think that with the advent of friends, kind of complaining about their siblings, my daughter is now realizing, oh, well, maybe this isn't a bad gig, and everyone wants to come over here because it's not crazy all the time. Right. Did you get those questions or like I did? Or was Sadie always super content to be an only? Because I know that is a question that a lot of, parents of only children sometimes get. Did you ever get that? Or is she always just like, I love this. I'm super happy to be.
Did I get it
on
from
my
her
own.
or did I get it from the?
Oh, forget whatever.
Right,
Everyone
okay, 'cause
else. Will
everyone
ask the
else, that's a
questions.
completely
That's a whole different thing. Did you
different
get it
topic.
from her?
We didn't.
That's awesome.
We really didn't. She wanted a dog.
Mm,
There was zero negotiation.
we're on that track.
Yeah. Zero negotiation about the dog. And I grew up with a dog, who I love. Rest in peace, Pretzel. And
Okay, stop.
Pretzel
Can we
lived until he was 17.
Pretzel.
He was a
Okay.
Yorkshire Terrier. He was perfect.
I had a Yorkie.
He was perfect.
Bobby.
And he passed away. You did?
Yes.
And my mom had a Yorkie too
Oh.
growing up. And Pretzel passed away peacefully in my dad's arms at 17. A well-lived life Pretzel had.
Oh, I love that.
We did not have a dog for many, many, many years. We lived in the West Village when my husband and I were married, and we all wanted a dog. So I grew up with a dog. My husband did not, and our daughter wanted a dog. And she did not ask about other siblings, but the puppy conversation kept rearing its head. And my husband is very definitive and about what he wanted. It is in some ways, still is. He's just a very definitive person, very meaningful about what he says and he thinks. And he was totally on board with the dog, but it had to be a Labrador Retriever. And that is, we love you, Wonton. He's the most incredible dog. We did not feel that a Labrador Retriever was suited for our New York City lifestyle. So we kept tabling it until we had a real meaningful discussion about moving to Connecticut. And the whole package came together and we moved to Connecticut and we got our Labrador Retriever. And at that point, even if Sadie had brought up the discussion of a sibling, we were way past
Definitely
the period of time where she would have wanted one. So our lab just turned 5 and my daughter just turned 18. So someone else can do the math. So we moved to Connecticut and within months got our lab and the rest is history.
I love that so much. Yeah, we are on the
Get a
dog track.
Get a dog, get a cat, get a bird. Well, you know, it's one of those elements of family that I'm not going to say Wonton's my son. I haven't completely lost my mind, but he completed our family.
I wouldn't even judge you
Thank you.
if you said that.
Right. I mean, I'm yeah, and I'm also, I think, at a stage in my life where if someone judged me for that, I feel like you're not my
dismiss it
people.
anyway,
Yeah, you're not
exactly.
my
It's
people.
yeah.
You know, I didn't give birth to Wonton. Louise did. And we are thinking about getting another
Louise,
dog
okay.
because now now my husband and I are empty nesters.
But you still have a fur child.
So I still have my fur baby Wonton,
yeah.
and we are hopefully we're thinking about getting another Labrador.
And will this one be named Dumpling?
That's our Wi-Fi password, by the way.
Oh, geez, don't tell people that.
Well, I'll have to change it now.
Okay.
But then you'd have to come to my house and want to be on my Wi-Fi, which means you'd have to be in my house and want to listen to all this. So I always was really cautious about telling people Sadie's name because I thought, it's like a kanahura, or in Judaism, you just don't, you don't share things before they happen. So I never shared her name. But I've let this rule go for a dog. So so we have one Labrador. He's a yellow lab. His name is Wonton. And we are getting another one, hopefully a black lab. And he will be named Tabiko and will be nicknamed Toby. And our Wonton nickname is Tons. So we'll have Tons and Toby is the storyline at the moment. But all good things hopefully come to those who wait. And so we're waiting for another dog to join our family.
I love that. And I feel like there's also like a children's book in the making, Tons and Toby.
Tons and Toby, right? It's
very catchy.
It's catchy. We're just writing so many books today.
I know. I mean,
Only Not Lonely,
yes.
Tons and Toby. I could fill a whole bookshelf. Hopefully.
You're onto something.
I hope so.
You really are.
I think it's you. You're inspiring me.
Well, thank you. So Sadie's now in college.
Yes.
And how do you feel about the phrase empty nester?
No, it's another one that could use a rebrand.
Right?
It really could. So I think this whole concept of the nest and the letting the birds fly and the emptiness, the whole narrative, I think needs to be rewritten. I will put that in another chapter of my life to probably collaborate with some people on that, because I do think the whole thing needs a rebrand. Listen, to be fair, I think as an only child, there has always been a lot of alone time in my life. I don't have the need to be surrounded by a lot of people, a lot of noise. I actually don't love that. And so with Sadie leaving for college, there is certainly a void. There is an emptiness that's both physical and mental. I mean, you feel it. She's not at home.
Right.
But what I've realized and trying to process this on a constant basis is, for us, or for me, it's not sadness and it's not emptiness that feels lonely. It is a constant, it's just a constant that when I think about her or what she's doing or wanting to talk to her, getting ready for the next time I get to see her. I mean, we saw her last weekend, and now I'm already excited for her fall break in October, that there's space between that. And what does that feel like? That it's not loneliness and it's not emptiness and it's not sadness. It is just it's something that you're thoughtful about. And that the time that you get to see them and that you get to talk to them and that you get to spend with them has a different type of meaning. I don't take for granted that I'm going to be able to run into her bedroom and bring her fresh laundry in there, or that she's going to come in and I thank everything on this planet that she's driven home to my house safely. It's just not like that anymore. And so the time that we get to spend with her, we got home yesterday from visiting her in Ann Arbor. And the only thing she wanted to do, she'd gotten tired of seeing us for 3 days, was she just wanted to FaceTime with her dog. And so what used to seem a little bit silly, maybe now my husband got off the train, he walked into the house, he said, we're FaceTiming with Wonton, right? And Sadie. It makes even the most mature people a little juvenile, because those little moments become really meaningful.
I mean, this goes back to your caring nature. I mean, you feel deeply. This is your baby.
Of course.
And she'll always be your baby.
You'll always be my baby, Sadie. Yes. Yes. I mean, that doesn't change. The caring for children when they go to college is very different. You also have moments where you're like, how did I not teach them how to do this? Sadie wasn't feeling well. She went to the health center the other day. By the way, dorm germs are real. She never got sick at home, and it never is extreme, but she was always very healthy and an athlete, and just it was not something we dealt with.
Well, you're healthy.
Thankfully.
I'm sure she took her vitamins, had high immunity, ate well.
She lived a very healthy lifestyle, thank God. And that was just not something that afflicted her. Of course, week 2 at school, she's sick. She has no voice. I'm on the phone with her, telling her to not even talk to me. She goes to the health center for an appointment, and she never filled out health forms by herself, because it's just not something from ground zero that any kid really has done. So it's like the first appointment, right? So it's paper, forms on top of forms on top of forms. She's like, I just have a sore throat. But those moments where they reach out to you for your help are really meaningful, because instead of sometimes, I think every parent feels like, do they really need help with that? Do they really need help with the thousands of things you do for them in nursery school or elementary school or high school? Whether they do or they don't, I look back and I'm very happy I was present for them and I helped for them. But you're really helping them along a lot more than they need to be helped along, because you're there and you're present, and that's wonderful. And then when they really need you in college, you feel it. Like, she really needed help with that.
So overwhelming.
Or she really needed help with certain things in her dorm room or figuring things out. And it's great to grow with them and realize that you're still relevant. You're still relevant in terms of, And then they just call because they just want to hear your voice too. It's not that you just want to hear their voice. And this was the best line. Both my husband and I just loved this so much. So everyone texts, right? I mean, the assumption is you text for everything. And she said to both of us, we weren't getting texts back from her, certainly not at the clip that we would have liked or expected. And so after days meandering around campus and spending time with her and going to football games and all of that, I just said, how can we be better at the way that we're in touch with you? And it's not that I need a response or Dad needs a response all the time, but like, how does this work? And she just said, pick up the phone and call me. It was a moment where I think it was like a total mic drop moment. And so yesterday, David had a question and he just called her and she picked up the phone. And I know it doesn't sound like a big thing, or maybe it does sound like a big thing, but there's too much going on in the new world that that she's becoming accustomed to, that the fury and fire of the text that we're all used to just doesn't work. And picking up the phone, talking through like 5 things or whatever we needed to get through, that was really efficient. I love being efficient, as do you. It was efficient. It was pleasant. It was meaningful. So we're just learning a new way to be.
Well, I mean, that's what you would have done.
Yes.
But in this new era where we have kids who have phones and I'm not there yet, but they do, and they have that access. It's really refreshing. And sure, it may be simple, but
she's not calling me from a landline, but
but like so simple and so relevant.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, think about it. How many times do you have like 10 questions for David? And you're like, I'm not going to write this in a text. I'm just going to pick up the phone.
Right.
And that's effectively what Sadie was telling you to do. And I love that she has the maturity and the wherewithal in her
She's
generation.
like, just pick up the phone and call me. I love it.
I do too. I'm so
It's great.
Oh, you're winning.
We are winning. We are winning.
That is wonderful.
At the moment. But as we said before, life is like, it's ups and downs. We're winning at the moment, for sure.
So you've sent off your baby to college.
Yes.
If you could share one thing that you've learned with all the parents out there about, how to prep their child and what comes next, what would it be?
Trust you've done a good job. Right? If you've done what we've been put on this planet to do, which is to love and protect our children and give them the confidence that they can go forth, but always lean on you. The empty nest conversation kind of becomes irrelevant because the house itself is just a structure, right? It's the nest is the family. That can go anywhere. And so I think it's just having the confidence to know that they will reach out when they need you and to just not do too much for them when they are still living at home, right? I think we did a good job of balancing independence with Sadie knowing that we would be there for whatever, kids are kids. They get in trouble, they fall, they falter. They're just mini adults. They're going through all the things that we're going through, right? So the wins Sadie was a competitive tennis player in high school. The wins were as infrequent as the learning moments, the teaching moments, right? And so if you're not too dramatic about either one of them and you kind of try to stay even keel, like we don't applaud the day-to-day wins. They should happen. If we groom them properly and pass on to them everything we've learned, there should be wins, there should be teaching moments, there should be learning moments. And it's all just this big evolution. I'm far from anyone, I don't think, to give parenting advice. Do not take lessons from me.
I think you're doing pretty great so far,
but,
just sharing.
Just to share what our experience has been, I think that the more independence, within reason, the better, because the moment they go to college, this is what I have found in the past few weeks, is jarring. It is jarring in that they are really leading their own lives. They're 18 years old. You have to sign paperwork to get access to their medical records. there are big moments that happen where they're in early adulthood and they have the choice to lean back into you or not. And so the more when they're younger, you give them the confidence that you can cry when you lose a tennis match. Like, you know what I mean? You can be super angry that you made a mistake and you got in that car accident. Like, nobody's beating you up over it. Feel your emotions, go through it. We're there to support you. We've been through it for sure, 10 times over. Be gentle on yourself and just move on. And then when they get to college, hopefully they are built to be ready for what I've already seen are challenges that they're just not, they just don't experience in high school. They don't experience in their youth, whether you're in public school or private school, and that doesn't matter. Once they're on their own and they're building what their life is going to look like in college, they can ask you if you like this class or that. They don't. My mind doesn't ask me if I like this stat or that econ or this. She's not asking me. Hopefully she has a very good advisor who she's doing that with. But they're not really asking you anymore. They're choosing what their days look like, what their nights look like, how they balance those two things. And hopefully they've learned that balance is really important. Back to the original topic we were talking about, which is there is this generation where they understand, I think, a little bit more than we did, that balance is really important. I mean, Sadie will talk about working out and going to the gym. I can tell you safely, I did not do that in college.
I did not do that either.
She
Balance
like
and
goes to
boundaries,
salads.
so important.
She eats salads. I definitively did not do that in New Orleans.
Neither did I.
Like they take care of themselves in a more responsible way. And I think there's more of a sense that a well-lived life has long-term, there needs to be some balance there.
Well, I'm hearing balance, boundaries, but I'm also hearing that you armed your daughter with resilience. And that is huge.
It is. It is, because I think we all have a moment at some point where the concept comes in that no one is there to save you. You only have yourself, really, at the end of the day. No matter how big your family is, no matter how big your friend group is, no matter how small those things are, we have to rely on ourselves to be the person we want to be. And I think we've done, as parents, the best job that we possibly can, leading by example. We all fall over and over and over again. Like, we all have failures. I have a lot under my belt. It's great to talk about the wins because I think the wins inspire people. And we have to, I think it's our job, if we've had wins, to share those wins to inspire people. But I think the losses are way more powerful. And for our kids to see that you can fight back, you can regain, you can blaze a new path, you can come out of any tragedy, and we've all experienced them, or any difficulty, or any loss, and recoup, rebuild, regain, all of those things, and be better. I mean, I did loathe the word better, but we can be stronger and more resilient than we were before. Resiliency is a wonderful word, I think, because it means that things are never steady, right? And so when you said we're winning right now, right now, in this moment. But that steadiness, as we all know, who have been on the journey of life, again, I'm going to be 50 in February, that there's no steadiness to life. And so resiliency comes in where the winning right now, listen, knock on wood, a tragedy doesn't happen tomorrow, but resiliency means that when it does, and it's inevitable, we can overcome whatever that is, alone, together, whatever. And I think it's a powerful word that that I hope Sadie has. I think that David and I do. And I think we've seen a lot of ups and downs, both personally and professionally. Resiliency is like, we're still in it, for sure.
It's character building.
For
and
sure.
It keeps going, right? Resilience is something that applies to every moment of difficulty. And the happy moments too. I mean, resilience is something that I feel like we find in the hard moments, but that's why I feel like it's winning if you can look at those hard moments, those quote unquote failures, so to speak, and realize that if you can come out of that and survive it, then you will become a stronger person for it, but also someone that's better equipped to handle the next adversity or a rough moment. And it helps you become more supportive for those around you, which is so apt for the world you're in with community and what you're building with Connecticut Edit. What I want to hear before we part is a little bit about what you're doing with Connecticut Edit, why you chose to do it, and what you're doing next, if you feel comfortable sharing.
Yes, of course. So when we moved to Westport about 5 years ago, it was during a time where we did not have a lot of connectivity to community. And we were very new in the place that we were living. And my daughter and I were inquisitive about the new place that we were living. And we have skill sets that complement each other. And we decided to launch the Connecticut Edit together. She was very much more, and still is, forward-facing in some regard, but she tinkers behind the scenes, whether it is building our website or working on SEO or working with different tools to build our brand. And I had come from a background where the very nature of what I did as the editor-in-chief of Hamptons was very, very forward-facing. The brand and the personalities and all of that were all very intertwined together. And so we just really complemented each other. And the Connecticut Edit started as our journey in Connecticut. It was really a discovery of what we loved, what we thought was chic, what we thought was new and noteworthy, and still is to this day. And I think like anything that anyone launches, whether you have the chops to do it, right? Meaning you and I have the education and the background and the knowledge and the connections and all of those things and understand what the marketplace looks like, you never know if something's going to be successful. And back to what we've talked about, I have many failures under my belt. The Connecticut Edit became sticky because what we came to discover was that our lens into Connecticut was interesting to people. It was through the lens of a mother and a daughter. We had a demographic at the time, which was girls and women 50 to 50. It's meandered, and that has changed, and it has to because I'm turning 50, so the number is going to have to grow. But it was our lens to what was new and noteworthy in Connecticut, and I think there just wasn't anything else like it. And it gave people a very comfortable lens into what we liked. And it turned out that that just resonated with other people. And from there, our community was built. We came up with our mission statement, which I think is so important for any brand. And our mission statement was to connect, captivate, and celebrate our community with social consciousness. And so Sadie and I divided what we felt passionately about. She took the arm of social consciousness, worked on a lot of our partnerships that we had and still have to this day. And I just put on my editor lens. And it was, how do we connect and captivate and celebrate our community? And that's through content and sharing what's going on. It's through celebrations, which are events and ways to bring community together. And it was, to go back to, I guess, the beginning of our conversation, it was very, and is very authentic and organic. We like to share what we discover, and our community enjoys it. And they're very involved and they're very engaged, and it's only grown. And so our next steps are we have a good impact, I think, on social. We have our website. We're about to launch on Substack. We have talked about having a podcast. We have talked about a variety of different things. We've talked about a shopping component. We've talked about a YouTube channel. And the one thing I have learned is that you have to be comfortable. When you do something that's forward-facing, you have to, or any brand, I think, for that matter, you have to be comfortable that you can achieve what it is that you set out to do, right? So we don't have a massive team yet behind us. And so when we get the type of engagement, well, you should have, or why don't you have this, fill in the blank. I have been through enough corporate failures in other people's businesses. And now that I'm playing with my own, our own resources and financials on this, that I want to be sure, or as sure as one can be, that that's what the market really wants, right? There's so much discussion when you have a brand of, if you built this, we would come. And I see it all the time. Or you should do this. And you have to trust your gut. And do I think that we would have a vibrant Substack community? Maybe. Did I not think that we would have a vibrant shopping community? I did not. I think there was a triple negative. I did not think that people were coming to us to shop what we were showing or buying or wearing. Turns out I was totally wrong. And so now we link what we're wearing and use platforms like LTK and ShopMy and share what it is that, we're wearing or doing. And that's been a success for us. So it's just a journey, kind of figuring out what's next. And we have thought about the impact that we're having in Connecticut and what that would look like in other states.
Oh, I'm very excited about what's next. Samantha, thank you so much for sharing and for reconnecting with me today.
Thank you. This was an incredible conversation.
So much fun.
So much fun.